Thanks for stopping by, guys, and welcome back to GearBlocks for yet another car creation. Now, this one's a little bit special for a few reasons. One, we built this entire car on stream. I did have to do a few tweaks afterwards, but for the majority of it, you can watch it start to finish from that 7-hour stream where we did almost the entire vehicle. I think the only things I had to do outside of stream was I forgot to actually hook up the gas tank and the battery and stuff. So I did that after the fact. But the entire powertrain, all of the steering, the outer shell, all of that was done on stream. So if you want to watch, I should have something popping up right about now, and it will be down in the description. In addition, this car has another fun special thing that I did with it. I actually took the time and linked the shell from the chassis and the gearbox cover all pop apart as separate pieces, so we can actually see into the gearbox here and into the engine. This is running an inline 4 going back to a 3-speed gearbox that is just going to a rear axle. The rear axle is one, I said solid axle, and that is incorrect. However, the actual suspension, the two axles are linked together, but it is going through CV joints into a gearbox. It's actually the same rear end, essentially, that is in the sports car prefab. So if you want to look at it, I tried to replicate it because I really liked that rear end. It seemed really simple. Now, the third little gimmick of this build is that there is no electricity powering the steering. It is entirely the steering wheel itself. The steering wheel comes out through some belts, through some gears, goes into another belt drive that actually drives the rack and pinion. There is a brake in this whole setup so that when you're not steering, it will tighten the steering a little bit so you get a little less wobble, little less, starting to get tongue twisted. A little less backlash while you're steering. And the auto centering of the wheels is essentially because the pivot for the wheels for the turning and the actual rotation point for the wheel is offset slightly. And since the wheel is slightly further back, it almost works like a caster wheel would on insert really any rolling object. So, I'm going to put the shell back on here in a second. But, so you can actually see the steering work, we're going to start the engine. We're going to, wrong key, there we go. Go into drive. And here you can see the wheel turns all of those gears, all of those belts. And it goes down to the rack and pinion. Now at slow speeds it is a little difficult for the car to go back to center, but as soon as you get above like 10 miles an hour it does just fine. It actually snaps back really quick at higher speeds, which is what the brake is there for, to slow that down so it doesn't overcorrect when steering. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and reattach the top shell. If I remember correctly, it should be that point there. Goes on to one of these points. No? Where did I miss? Oh, down here. There it is. That point. And let's grab the gearbox cover. I'm going to grab right about there. Oh, I saw it there for a second. There it is. And the car is assembled again. So let's hop in. Let's go through controls. Very similar, but not the same as all my other vehicles. Holding 3. Oh, I'm not. I'm still, there we go. Frozen. Holding 3. We'll start the engine. Pressing 3. We'll turn it off. Pressing 1. We'll disable the parking brake, turn on a drive light, and you can drive around. The change between this and the other vehicles is instead of using R and F for shift, I'm actually using shift and control, so you don't have to take your fingers off of the driving keys to actually shift the gear. The RPM for this is about 3,000, and the top speed is about 100. Oh, when I put the shell back on it, made the shifter get stuck. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete this one and grab a new one. You can pop the shell off. I just forgot it's going to break those connections. And this will give us a chance to un-Austin Powers ourselves. Why is my shifter not working? Technical difficulties, be right back. Alright, and I'm back. So apparently while I was building this, I saved a version where the shifter was stuck. It should... There we go. Whenever you press shift and control. That's better. Let's go ahead and get this started. Let's get ourselves out of here. And the last control, which I realized I didn't actually show, was if you do H, which is different than my other cars, it will turn on the headlights, the tail lights, and of course you have the little indicators when you press A and D, and brake lights when you press S for brakes. Okay. I think that's everything done. Let's go ahead and get driving. Additional note, since I am constantly remembering things that we did during the stream, this actually has, if you look when I do the headlights, it actually lights up the dash and the gear number, so that when we're driving, we can actually drive this at night and still see our speed and our gear. So if I bring this to a complete stop real quick, and grab the world controls, I can set this to... Let's do this, and let's do a slight progression of time. How fast is that progression? Well, we're gonna find out, aren't we? Alright. So when I start the car, I can actually turn on my headlights, and it turns on my dash light, which is really nice. Let's get in first gear. Let's hit drive. And we can drive in the dark if you really like to. One additional note is this car does fully work with fuel consumption turned on. So it does have the batteries, the alternators, the fuel tanks. The fuel tanks are comically enough under the back seats. Someone asked me to do that. Nothing like a Ford Pinto. And here we're at the top gear, top speed. We can't really do anything faster than that. But despite the fact that this does not have any power going to the steering, it drives really well. It's not fast. We're going, I think, like 90 probably right now. Yeah, 96. But it works. And it works well. And it's just a station wagon. I find it almost comical how well this drives. This may actually, like, I know the sports car was 120 something miles an hour, but this, even though it has a lower top speed, just drives so well and actually shifts really well. I'm almost entertained to see which one would be faster in a race, in just a round the track race. I think the sports car has it just because of top speed, but this thing drives so well and drives so smooth. Shift down a gear. And let's see if we can get this back up to... Do one lap. We'll do one lap and then we'll take it back to the little parking area. Because I think I've shown off everything there is to show. And like I said, if you really want to see the building process for this vehicle, it's all on stream. It is a long stream. But I wanted to do as little as possible off camera. The only reason I actually had to do anything off camera is just because I literally forgot to connect the fuel tanks and stuff, and I off camera made it so the shell popped off, which took a bit of time, and I wasn't planning to do originally, but I thought it'd be a cool little feature to add and possibly add in future vehicles so you can just rip them apart and see what's on the insides. Oh, we're on our top gear. It's a little hard to see driving at this time of night. Before we get to the really fun section, I'm going to pull off, do the parking brake, and I'm going to brighten it up a little bit. Do it at like a nice sunset. There we go. So it's probably a little bit easier to see on video. There we go. Headlights on. First gear. The first gear in this is really powerful too. And here we come to one of the most terrifying sections, the downhill. Which is where most of my cars just explode their rear ends. But not the station wagon for some reason. Also, while I'm thinking about it, something I noticed while playing this and I really like is if you look at the glass on the back, that light there is not orange, it's actually white. And just because it's going through orange glass, it looks like it is orange. And when I made it orange, because it was an orange light going through orange glass, for some reason it almost appeared red, like it was another brake light. That's why I had to make it white. There we go. Shift down. So, part of the reason I did the steering like this was just because I wanted to. It was supposed to be a gimmick. But the additional layer that came from it is just because of how steering works and how the return to center works. The faster you are going, the harder it is to steer, which almost self-balances itself. So that the faster you're going, the less tapping steering does. So it becomes a lot smoother at high speed and a lot more harsh at low speed. So you can make tight turns at low speed, but you're very limited on how quickly you can turn at high speed. So as soon as we come to this corner and we have to slow down, suddenly our turning radius gets a lot bigger as we slow down. Which is a really fun system. I'm going to have to experiment with it. For now, this sort of system doesn't work at high speed. The front end just wobbles and it becomes near uncontrollable. But I may have some ideas on how to apply this to a racing car and see if we can get some fun effects and fun controlling and fun stability from a similar setup to this. That's part of the reason I built this. It was an experiment that went really, really, really well, and I'm really happy with how this little station wagon turned out. So, that being said, I am going to actually end this episode here. If you did enjoy, please leave a like. Any suggestions, leave in the comments down below. If you really want to help out, share this channel with a friend. That helps out the most, getting more people to come in, see some of the stuff I've been building. But I am going to be ending it here. Until next time, peace.